Turn on. Click the links for Odysee, Bit Chute to subscribe to the channel, become a valued member, and support channel through the various other links. Okay, so this is testing with a new pop filter on a microphone, so I hope this works out well. John Malin versus the dinosaur of comics. There are people on Twitter who are on Twitter seemingly just to be on Twitter, just to spend hours a day on Twitter arguing about a group that they purportedly hate. You know, if you hate some group, it's weird that you would. There's a channel called Comicsgate posting their L's, which means somebody's spending a few minutes every day on Twitter with this site, focusing on a group that they hate. That's a weird use of your time. You could be doing anything, you probably exercise for a lot of these guys, but there's a lot of these people that there are probably some creative types in there. Like, why don't you write a story, work on your art, do something? If you've got some spare time and you're focused on Comicsgate, my God, anything. Start a channel, an exercise channel, fitness channel. I mean, any creative endeavor, pretty much other than poetry, because you can't turn it's you can have a very difficult time turning poetry into cash. But any other creative endeavor is a better use of your time than focusing on a group that you hate. That's kind of stalkerish behavior, and especially it's like you're not exactly fighting Sauron's minions. You're fighting a group of 50-year-olds who write comics and they sell them on YouTube. Like, those are your enemies. You could pick better windmills to tilt against, is what I'm trying to say. So I heard of this weirdo Mark Brooks was attacking people in Comicsgate, and I decided to do a little investigation of my own. I looked up John Malin and his art. Fantastic stuff. He did Graveyard Shift, which is his own IP, and Jawbreakers, which was kind of the comic that started it all, thanks to it was a $200,000 crowdfunded campaign on Indiegogo by Richard Meyer that was going to get to $200,000 or 197, I think, and then because of Mark Wade's um, machinations, it got it to over $400,000, which is thanks, Mark Wade. I would be sending him a basket of flowers for the rest of his life. So he's done that, Jawbreakers and Graveyard Shift, great stuff. And besides that, he's done mainstream stuff also, but mainstream is dead to me, and it's dead to a lot of people, even to people who were still somewhat had their thumb in it, at least to collect things. You look at it now, you're like, yeah, there's nothing in the mainstream. And it's like that with a lot of entertainment. I'm constantly saying, like, if you want something, you're gonna have to make it yourself, and if that means literally you write a script to a movie, a low budget film. I was thinking, like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, okay, I can write a script, but I'm not gonna get $1 million to fund a movie. Here's the thing. Yes, that's a 1 in a million shot getting, say, $500,000 to make a movie. But if you don't have a script in front of you that you can pass around to people and have people look at and get people enthusiastic about, then you have zero chance of turning something you don't have into something. Whereas if you do have the script, at least it's a 1 in a million chance. So write a comic, do something, storyboard something, put something together, do something, because the mainstream is not going to give you what you want. It's so bad now that I say, yes, you can make your own comics, even if it's like, oh, my first comic, it's only going to get $27,000. To be in the black cost $24,000, so I, didn't really make a profit on it, just enough to get it out the door. That's all you need to do. Build a channel, get your comic out the door. $27,000 the first one, $29,000 the second one, and you just keep building your channel, keep selling comics, work on your email list, get people excited in your project. You're not going to get anything from the mainstream. That includes comics, that includes mainstream movies. Oh, but Spider-Man Homecoming was so great. One, it wasn't that great, and two, that was one film out of 50 that came out in the past 2 years that people found palatable, at all palatable. It wasn't that good. They still swapped out the characters. But compared to all the other crap that came out, it's like, yeah. My point is, if you're willing, don't be willing to settle for Spider-Man, the Homecoming thing. That wasn't a good movie. And then all the other movies absolutely bombed. Matrix 4. It's like they had $100 million to put into that movie, and they came up with what they came up with. Literally, write your own comics, books, scripts. Do something yourself. Hollywood has completely abandoned you. The mainstream comics has abandoned you. You literally have to do it yourself, even if it means on $1,000 camera with $1,000 worth of microphones and light gears, and make your own skits. Do something, because the mainstream has completely abandoned you. So I was scrolling through John Malin's art to investigate him because I'm not that familiar with his stuff. And I didn't see anything unusual about his art. Nothing controversial. He's just an artist. I didn't see him drawing anything weird, like adult type of stuff. So I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see where the problem is. There are a few things going on here. The short version is Malin likes some period correct film, a Swedish or something. It's not a very controversial statement. It's good to see accurate films, that kind of thing. Like if you're doing Shakespeare, you want to see people who were around in Shakespeare's time. They're probably better looking versions of people who were around in Shakespeare's time. But he was dangling the bait out there a little bit. But the thing with bait, nobody forces you to take the bait. Now enter one triggered soy boy, Mr. Mark Brooks, and I mean that if you Google Mark Brooks con, you'll see pictures of him at a con. And most comic book artists are not, they're not spending a lot of time on getting any kind of exercise, even if it's the point of like, hey, you think maybe you should go walk some hills or something, get the heart rate elevated a little bit. It's like they're either very skinny, or they looking like Dan Slott, which is about, or Mark Way, which, about 400 pounds. They're just spherical shape. Sphere is a shape, yeah. It's just cubes of butter, basically. So he gets triggered, and you go like, was he really triggered about talking about some Swedish movie? No, he doesn't care. It's just like it's the okay to be white. It's a statement that you have to agree with. Yeah, it's great to be of European descent, but for some reason it triggers the soy people because it forces them to try to find a way to twist those words. But you can't. It's okay to be African, European, Asian. It shouldn't trigger anyone. So let me punch in hashtag Comicsgate and see what kind of stuff we come up with. But cultural Marxism has made these people so crazy that they don't know what to do. They're angry and frustrated about how life in the West is basically falling apart, and it absolutely is. Mostly, they suspect because of left-wing policies. Like, quick, let's double down on left-wing policies. Let's accelerate it. Like, maybe you want to pump the brakes and move things in a different direction. No, 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 no. It'll work better this time if we put more resources into something that is apparently just a naked singularity of all infinite mass and density. But they can't actually address any of the real pachyderms in the room because then they'd be doxxed, fired, and destroyed. They are terrified of being labeled Islamophobic. Because for 80 years, the Bolsheviks who control Hollywood told them that that was the worst thing that they could be. Keep in mind, when a cultural Marxist lips are moving, they're lying. Everything Hollywood has shown might not exactly or always be 100% alive, but it's always a narrative that the devil is trying to push. And the thing is, once you take the red pill and you keep taking red pills, you look back at old movies and you realize, oh, a lot of them are unwatchable. And you come out of the Matrix, it's like you can't just go back in the Matrix to go watch these old movies that are like, oh, here's a forced character, or, oh, here's a blonde man being bad. It's like it ruins a lot of old films for you, but it is what it is. And the thing is, the further back you go, the better it gets. It's just the recent stuff is it should be normies should be waking up to how bad the recent stuff is. Anyway, like these are just a bunch of normal people who are just trying to get a product out into your hands. And they made fun of it's weird. Sex shame is okay for them. The Star Wars girl Anna has a calendar. She's cosplays different characters, and they're blaming her for that, for putting the calendar out. Like she's selling a product that people want. She goes, oh, there's something about, I don't know, Comicsgate is just horny or something. It's like, wait, are you guys sex positive or sex negative? Like you're okay with trans drag kids and sex work is real work, but you're not okay with a girl doing a calendar? How does that work? It's like it's not logically consistent. None of it makes sense. Eric Weathers is great. It's funny, like Kyle Ritter, Eric Weathers. It's like they turn out all these guys. They turn out to be great artists in their own right. Anyway, so if you know something because you saw it on a screen, then you know what they wanted to show you, which is usually a lie meant to harm you because they hate you. They really are Luciferians who literally Epstein kids. Am I saying they're crap people who live under the earth? Maybe. Hollow Taurus-shaped earth for the win. But there are a lot of low IQ, gullible people in America who see something on TV and assume that it must be close to the truth. It's funny, whenever you mention the oblate spheroid of revolution, the morphology of that heavenly body, the third planet from the sun, or the dogs that under the fighting breed, the pit bull dogs. And if you mention any of these things, especially pit bulls, in a negative light, you will get people on the Bit Chute comment section who will you will get a dozen people defending They're little angel muffin pit bulls who like just got done mauling children. You'll have, like, even me saying this now, if they made it to this point of the video, all it takes is one person to defend pit bulls, and then immediately everyone in the comments will defend it. Same thing with the shape of the third planet from the sun. If you even joke about that, they'll go shake my head. You just need to keep going down the rabbit hole. It's like, well, I hope I never get that deep where it's on the back of four elephants on the back of a turtle. The thing is, the more TV people watch, it turns out it's like the harder for them to actually determine reality, which is like there's never been a better time to turn off that damn TV than right now. So most people on Twitter are living in this bubble world where there is no critical thinking done. They never stop to question the narrative because questioning is istophobic. Oh, okay, here's the calendar. Let me pop up. This is Mandy Summers, who did Wart the Wizard I'm familiar with, and she did a bunch of others. It's a kid's book, and it's let's get you down a little bit. And it's great. It was a fun little thing she did for the kids, and then she did other stuff too. So they go, this is like them being horny. They swapped the faces out on the Birds of Prey characters, I think, and that's it. Like that's the whole thing. They swap characters. Like, Comicsgate's just a bunch of, are you sex positive or sex negative? She's selling a product that people want to buy. She's not exactly getting DP'd by Darth Vader. I mean, let's keep things in perspective. And Cecil says, these people are just insane. They just have this hatred inside them, and they don't know where to go with it. Anyway, the point is about questioning things is something wrong thinkers do. If you ask too many questions, they know, they can tell. Like, because if you're in the middle of the herd, you're not asking questions. It's only people who are moving to the exterior of the herd that start asking questions, and they start to get the feeling like they'll give you little passive aggressive warnings. But they'll make claims about people. They'll make claims about EVS and all this kind of stuff about they've done all these horrible things, and you go, well, can I see some evidence of that? And they don't ever come with the evidence. The evidence they come is like he signed his name in a box, and if you squint, it looks like a box. Like, no, it's a World War II symbol. Like, was he joking? Because it's possible. I mean, do you guys, he signed My Struggle for a character that was act like the Austrian Corporal. So it's like it kind of you see where he's going with that. It's a negative portrayal of some comic book character. So he's like, it should be obvious if you're not a child where he's going with that. But they latch onto any piece of nonsense. It's like this is like a 12-year-old would look at this and draw the analogy between the historical character and the use of that phrase. That's why he did it. I mean, unless you're literally developmentally disabled, like you have fetal alcohol syndrome, that you don't understand this analogy. So they latch on to anything, even if it's nonsense. But the thing is, if they catch you questioning things, then they know that there's something wrong with you. The funny thing is, even if you hate EVS as much as you want, this guy's a Comicsgate posting there else, you can hate anyone you want, it's fine, but you're giving him your time. Why would you give anyone your time? It doesn't make sense for someone that you claim to hate so much. It's like, are you getting paid for making a YouTube, a Twitter channel like this? The thing is, the left is, they don't question anything because questioning, question authority, like heaven forbid, that's how mankind advances, by questioning things. But now it's like only that's a right-wing concept to ask questions about things. The thing is, the left has turned into a religion. The scientific method is not allowed, or even the legal method, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, which really means kind of the end of civilization, because a religious-based society is going to starve to death without some very unusual circumstances being present, such as sitting on massive reserves of hydrocarbons under salt caps. The left wing has painted themselves into this corner that whenever a purse puppy makes a ridiculous demand, they must immediately acquiesce, no matter how silly. We can run cars on water. Okay. They'll spend more time attacking my use of the term purse puppy than addressing the bad ideas being proposed. Their cities turn into third world nightmares full of tents, but they're focused on teaching CRT in schools. The cities in America are hellholes, and they literally focus on a Karen dropping N-bombs because that's the only politically correct thing that they can focus on. Focusing on crime is istophobic because the wrong people are committing it. Twitter is this insane left wing bubble world where they can feel better about themselves because they have constructed the fantasy world where they can just repeat these silly platitudes, usually anti white stuff, and they never stop to ask if they're accurate. They never stop to ask for evidence for it because to ask for evidence, that's something literally the Hugo Boss types did. Which is why Seth Rogen panicked when the Blood the Blue checkmark talked about crime in L.A. That was a bit of reality that came crashing into the Twitter bubble and into the blue checkmark bubble. Talking about breaking into cars, ha ha ha, it's just part and parcel of living in a vibrant multicultural city. Ha ha ha. Paying, $7,000 a year to get your windows repaired is just part of living in a blue city. So they got to quickly deflect from the main issue and move on to anything else. Left wingers will focus on everything but the real issue. So they focus on pronouns. And it's like, ha ha, LA is lovely. Don't talk about crime because then we have to talk about the perpetrators, which is a ha ha, quick deflection. So the mainstream comics people are seeing an industry in decline. Sales are not what they used to be, and the cultural impact is not what it used to be, which probably bothers them more than anything because they're all about power. But what power remains, they want total control over it, and they have it. There is no diversity of thought allowed in comics. Right-wing nationalist voices are not welcome. It's 100% globalist controlled, and it shows. The stories are absolutely horrible. There's no nuance. There's no multifacet to a story. It's just pure multicultural globalist garbage. They never show the negatives of it, the destruction of culture that results. It's pure propaganda. Or they never show, your Tesla window having to be replaced every month. So enter Comicsgate. People selling their own stories on YouTube. Just a little harmless competition. It's not even a blip on the radar. It's less than 1% of Marvel and DC. It's not something the mainstream soy people should even notice or care about. Yeah, there's a lot of projects out there, but they're beginning part-time level projects that are barely profitable at like $30,000. It's the beginning of an industry, not one at the peak, but it's a growing industry where the mainstream is a shrinking industry. And Comicsgate has excitement. There's no excitement for trans pronoun, Latinx, otherkin, BLT, POC, spiders, or nobody talks about the mainstream comics. The movies, absolutely, not the comics. On Twitter, they talk about the rebellious Comicsgate clan who are not doing as they're told. Twitter thinks this group of 50-year-old men are goose-stepping in Hugo Boss. That would make for a better story if it was, but sad to say, it's just not the case. Even Vox Day, Teddy something, who they think is the devil, he writes normal comics on Arcaven Comics online. It turns out that he's actually an amazing storyteller. Vox, Ethan, Richard are just not the monsters that they're making them out to be, but they are off the plantation, and they have their own audience without the censorship of the mainstream. And they are not happy about free thinkers without censorship. They absolutely have to control everyone. So why don't Mark Brooks, Ron Marz, and the others get on YouTube and kind of start selling their own stuff? Because it takes hustle. It takes some of this, dressing up like an idiot to get some eyeballs on you. It absolutely works. Drink and Draw has 7,650 subs, and nobody watches it. I tried to watch it a few times. It's absolutely horrible. I'm not even subbed to it. It's that bad. They talk about nothing because they're not allowed to talk about anything because SJWs think as a collective. If one of them didn't like the race swapping in Spider-Man, they couldn't mention it because the globalist view is that replacing European characters is the right choice, so they view the movie through the lens of cultural Marxism, and they all come to the same conclusion, whether they really agree or not. Where our guys are diverse in their opinions, some liked the movie, others hated it, same with The Matrix, though, to be fair. I think most people did not like The Matrix, so a few people pointed out some things in The Matrix that they did well. It was horrible. It's horrible. I kind of suspect that you have to see it in the theater. And if someone gave me a free ticket, I would go to see it in the theater, but I can't pay to support the Matrix because it sends a signal. If you pay for something, you'll get more of something, and you just have to send a signal to not pay for it. It's on Odysee if you want. There's a perfect version on Odysee. Somebody must have got a DVD rip or something because it's not a cam version. There's a perfect high def version on Odysee, but it's just not worth watching. None of these things. Most of the stuff's not worth watching. When I say you're gonna have to make your own comics, I mean it. I mean, we got to grow the Comicsgate audience so you can, grow the audience to give everyone a chance to sell something, and branch out. I don't know, into movies, which if that's a whole different level of investment. I get that, but the mainstream comics were so bad that Comicsgate was able to make a business. Mainstream movies now are so bad. The investment is different. The investment is more than 10 times greater than building a comic is like $20,000. Building a movie is like a micro budget movie could be $200,000, but it still is $200,000, which is, and then we're talking about like a Kevin Smith style Clerks black and white movie where the actors are working, I think, for free. But I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible, and it's only because the mainstream is so bad that it's like, yeah, you probably could crowdfund this type of stuff and get some kind of return on investment. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.